This is Valley News Live at 5:30.
We start with breaking news. We're getting reports of an injury motorcycle crash on Highway 10. Eastbound traffic is said to be at a standstill. Now, according to reports, a helicopter landed on Highway 10 and took one person away with injuries. The extent of those injuries is unknown at this time. We do have a team on the way, and we will keep you updated as we continue to learn more. Meanwhile, a Horace City Council member is at risk of being recalled. The city says a petition submitted to the auditor's office received enough signatures to start the process. Stephanie Landstrom took her seat on council in July. She ran on a platform of increased communication, which is why she's speaking out following the recall. She says the reason for her recall has to do with her vote to not renew the new home property tax abatement and concerns over improvements to Wall Avenue. The election recall will take place on August 15th at the Horace Fire Hall starting at 7 a.m. We'll dive much deeper into the story tonight on Valley News Live at 6:30. Minnesota's first in the nation missing and murdered Indigenous relatives office unveiled a new logo today. The director says the goal is to bring a renewed awareness to the crisis affecting Indigenous people in Minnesota while inspiring hope for a better and brighter future. The main element of this logo features an Indigenous person with a red handprint over the person's mouth. The office also wanted to incorporate shades of teal to represent sexual assault survivors. The red circle represents the sun, signifying a new day and new beginnings. Today is National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Native Women. The Senate approved the resolution designating this day just this week. North Dakota Senator John Hoeven issued a statement saying, in part, the country's bipartisan resolution unanimously approved helps raise greater awareness about the tragedies. Meanwhile, the family of Nevaeh Kingbird is remembering her and are continuing to keep the search for her alive. She was reported as a runaway in October of 2021, but by early December, police say concern intensified when no one had been in contact with her since. Tonight on Valley News Live at 6:30, we'll hear from her mom and others fighting to keep these missing persons cases from going cold. Switching gears here, let's turn our attention to the weather now and get the very latest from our chief meteorologist, Hutch Johnson. Hutch.
Courtney, thank you, and good evening, everyone. A beautiful Friday continues here in the FM area. Typical heavy traffic working its way out on I-94. You're looking over into Minnesota. Temperatures are holding in the 60s and 70s in our area, mid-70s for Fargo. That's our high for the day so far. Duluth, a little cooler pool there, 48 degrees. Showers and thunder south of the cities, and what's moving out of the Rocky Mountains is heading in our direction, and that's going to bring us a chance of wet weather and windy weather this weekend. But for now, wow, beautiful spring-like signs across the valley. Coralie, thank you for sharing those near Laverne in the Cheyenne River Valley. Temperatures will sneak down in the 50s by bedtime tonight. It'll be breezy, and that will continue for the evening as well. Grand Forks similarly, clouds building overnight. That'll lead to our rain chances, which I'll detail here in just a few moments. Courtney?
All right, Hutch, looking forward to it. A 51-year-old man has been sentenced to life in prison for sexually abusing a child for years. Whitehorse, also known as Stanley Ducharme, pleaded guilty to sexual contact with a child under the age of 12. Documents say he sexually abused a Native American child from 2008 to 2016. The abuse started when the child was 3 and went on until the child was 11. The abuse was happening when he was living in Belcourt. A judge denied a request by prosecutors to return Waylon Kurtz to Minnesota after his attorney assured her a problem with a GPS monitoring system is now fixed. Kurtz is the 19-year-old suspected of plotting a mass casualty event at St. Olaf College in Minnesota. He had previously returned to his home in Vermont to await trial, but the monitoring signal is lost in the forested valley where he lives. A man accused of targeting Muslims in Minnesota has been indicted on federal arson and civil rights charges. 36-year-old Jackie Little is accused of setting fires at 2 mosques, vandalizing a congresswoman's office in Minneapolis, as well as an officer's patrol car. The state U.S. attorney announced the charges against Little on Friday and said these attacks will not be tolerated.
We all want to assure the Muslim community and members of all faith communities that we respond to attacks on houses of worship at the highest levels and with utmost urgency. Islamophobia is serious and must be confronted head on. In Minnesota, we take care of each other, and we always will.
Officials say Little will remain in jail until his trial. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz was joined by leaders and activists today as he signed a voting protection bill into law. The Democracy for the People Act protects the freedom to vote and increases voting accessibility for Minnesotans. Walz began by praising the former Secretary of State for her work on improving voting access, which laid the groundwork for this bill signing.
We're not telling people how to vote. We're not telling people if they have to. We're just making sure that the process to get them registered is easy and get them in there, and then we're going to encourage them. We know when people register to vote, they go vote. And we know when more people vote, the democracy is much more representative, and you get the results that the vast majority of folks want to get.
Walz also said this law is being signed against the backdrop of false accusations of election fraud and attempts to stop the legal counting of votes in the 2020 presidential election. COVID-19 is no longer a global public health emergency. The World Health Organization announced today that it is ending the declaration it issued more than 3 years ago. The decision was made following a recommendation from the WHO's Emergency Committee. Data indicates that globally, COVID deaths have fallen steadily over the last 3 months, from more than 41,000 weekly at the start of January to around 3,500 on April 24th. The U.S. is set to end its COVID public health emergency on Thursday after President Biden signed a resolution into law last month. The designation had been in place since January 2020. A West Metro Perimeter Highway may be in the works for transportation planners linking I-29 and I-94. It's been a topic of conversation for years, and this would provide alternative routes for drivers. As the FM Metro continues to grow, traffic demands continue on these urban corridors. They hope the proposed alternative route could alleviate some traffic and cut down on trip lengths. A preliminary look at the projected traffic volumes shows the proposed highway would be one of the most heavily traveled in Cass County. You can read the whole study proposal under the news tab of our website. Just click on this story. April job numbers out today are better than expected, but still the economy faces major headwinds of stubborn inflation and bank stress. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington as President Biden meets with his economic cabinet as the fast-approaching June 1st debt ceiling deadline approaches.
At the first meeting, we broke out the cabinet.
President Biden today celebrating a stronger than expected jobs report.
We obviously have more work to do, but we're trending in the right direction.
U.S. employers added 253,000 jobs to the economy in April. The unemployment rate at 3.4%, tied for the lowest level since 1969. The jobs market has largely held steady despite layoffs in some sectors, turmoil in the banking industry, stubbornly high inflation, and the looming debt ceiling fight as the nation careens toward a catastrophic default on its loans by as soon as June 1st. President Biden today blaming House Republicans.
We're trying to hold the debt hostage to us to agree to some draconian cuts.
While the president wants separate negotiations on the debt limit and budget cuts, GOP leaders insist the time is now to tackle what they see as government overspending, even rejecting a short-term extension.
That's not negotiation in good faith. That's kicking the can further down the road and hoping that the political winds change a little bit.
In a push to break the stalemate, top congressional leaders set to join President Biden for a debt ceiling debate on Tuesday, as experts warn the nation's credit rating could see a costly downgrade, even if we avoid default.
The risk is that it demonstrates our political system is so broken at this point that we're even getting close to it.
With the state of the economy under threat, Americans feeling the pain, fed up.
Unfortunately, it's the impasse that this country seems to be at all the time.
And looking to their leaders to make it right. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
There's a lot riding on the next week's debt ceiling meeting at the White House. Top economic officials have repeatedly warned that going into default would raise costs for businesses and families and increase the risk of a recession. Anglers are prepping for the Minnesota fishing opener next weekend. But this weekend, the 17th annual Scheels Fish Fest is providing an opportunity for them to get ready ahead of time. Visitors can shop for the best deals on some of the latest fishing technology and equipment, such as rods and boating gear. More than $2,500 worth of prizes are also up for grabs. But before you get out in that water, a fishing expert says there are a few things to keep in mind.
I think for a lot of people, this will be some of the coldest water they've ever fished to start the season, so don't rule anything out. You know, check up shallow, check the rock, check the weeds, literally anything you can find. But the biggest key is going to be finding that warmest water possible.
Fish Fest runs through tomorrow. It's in the parking lot of Shields on 45th Street South. After construction forced a Moorhead home and garden shop out of its home of nearly 50 years, the owners have planted new roots near downtown Fargo, opening their doors for the first time this morning. Hollins is now located at 420 University Drive near Chubb's Pub and Dairy Queen, offering home decor, indoor and outdoor plants, a play set for kids, and a greenhouse.
We love Fargo, we love being downtown, and they've been extremely welcoming to us.
You can shop at the new location 7 days a week. We have their hours and their website for you. Just head to VNL News app and click on this story. South High was bustling with activity today for the Careers on Wheels showcase. Various area businesses gave presentations for students from all 3 Fargo middle schools. More than 800 7th graders had an opportunity to tour large-scale vehicles and learn about the various career clusters and skills needed to operate them. As the Fargo Force continue their goal to bring home the Clark Cup, a big congrats can now go to head coach Nick Oliver. He's been named USHL Coach of the Year. In his first season as head coach, Oliver led the Force to capture the Anderson Cup as regular season champs for the first time in team history and setting a team record for most wins and points in a single season. And tonight the Force take on the Lincoln Stars in Game 2. Puck drop is at 7:05. Congratulations. A treasure hunt that was scheduled to get underway in Grand Forks today has been postponed and participants are being refunded. The Seven Paces hunt was organized by 2 Grand Forks business owners. They opened registration for the 1,000 people for a $50 fee. Treasure hunters would get access to a riddle. A line of the riddle was to be released every day until someone found the treasure. That grand prize was $20,000. The 2 haven't said what has caused them to postpone. In the meantime, they've organized a treasure hunt for $250 that people can participate in for free. There are some really convincing scams going on for people trying to buy Taylor Swift tickets, but there's a telltale sign that they're not legit. We'll tell you what to watch out for still to come.
Beautiful weather tonight, but we're watching some changes making its way in from the west. Some thunderstorms tonight moving into the western part of Nebraska and South Dakota. I'll have your hour-by-hour forecast of rain for the weekend next.